Hello everyone, this is Riya Guho from the Department of Linguistics, University of Calcutta. Today I will present this paper on Hirok Raja Deshe, a pragmatic probe into a political satire. This is the overview for the paper. Hirok Raja Deshe is the second film in the Gopigain Bhagabain series created by Satyajit Ray for the children. The second film was made more than 10 years after the first film Gopigain Bhagabain. Although it is a film made for the children, it is widely surmised as a political satire created in the backdrop of the emergency in the 70s in India. This movie was produced by the state government of West Bengal. A satire is a discursive strategy used to express one's discontent towards something. In case of a political satire, it is often the state or the ones in power position. A satire posits two contrastive ideas, one posited through the outer structure and one through the subtle hints, underlying meanings. The diversified audience are allowed to choose one that they find similar to their worldview. This duality served in a satire provides a shield for the satirist in a hostile situation. This paper aims at identifying the purposes that the rhymed pattern serves, along with the embedded elements used to mark the satirical structure. For this work, we have used a multi-theoretical framework. One of them is Simpson's triadic discursive model of satire following Foucault. It has three subject positions: a satirist, the producer of the satire, the satiree, the addressee of the satire, and the satirized, the target of the satire. Satire has three phases. First is the prime. It activates the intertextual references. The second one is dialectic. It is a textual element that posits an antithesis that clashes with the prime. The third one is the conferral of irony. The addressee must identify the opposition, the use of irony, otherwise the text cannot be marked as a satire. Bakhtin's Carnivalesque is used to analyze the festival aspect in the film. Carnivalesque is a literary form which depicts language used to reverse the existing power structure temporarily. It uses humor, different speech styles, among other devices to replicate an original carnival, as the carnival is opposed to the official culture. The opening song serves as a prime for the film, which links it to the first film, and we are expected to wait for the sequel to the first film, an innocuous children's film which is only about Gopi and Bagha and their adventure. This song also introduces the king of Shundi, whose benevolent nature is a perfect foil for the king of Hirok's cruel nature. They show the text's internal dialectics. Next, look at this picture behind the king of Hirok. It might look like a star, but a closer look resembles like an eye of Big Brother from Orwell's novel 1984. Whether it was a coincidence or an intentional reference, we don't know. But if it was the latter case, it can be said that the satirist wanted his audience who share his worldview to look beyond the humorous speech of Hirok and relate him to a totalitarian image. Rhymed speech is the crucial feature of this film. A popular notion is that only Udayan Pandit used non-rhymed speech, which is not true. Some characters switched between rhyme and non-rhymed speech. For example, King of Hirok, Gopi Bagha and Udayan Pandit. First, let's see. Both King of Hirok and Shundi used rhymed speech. So rhyming symbolizes power, institutional power, but it does not stand for oppression, as King of Shundi was described as a benevolent king. Power cannot be good or bad. it's the people who use them can be. Therefore, both the kings are made to use rhymed speech. For Gupi Bagha as well, rhymed speech means power. In addition to that, privileges and constraints that come with it, as it is evident in the song where they say even when they are living luxuriously, they couldn't go wandering around the world for the last 10 years. Udayan Pandit too used rhymed speech towards the end in the laboratory, which marks the reversal of power and that he has occupied the power position. Next, these people in this table only used rhymed speech because King of Shundi never lost power, and the ministers, astrologer and scientists are also shown to use only rhymed speech. Although the finance minister and the astrologer were shown to believe the king was unjust, they could not oppose him because they were bound to the institutional power. The scientist claimed that he belongs to no one, he belongs to himself, but his allegiance lies to his research work, for which he needs support. Whoever provides him that, his loyalty will belong to them. That is why his rhymed speech marked his privileges and dependencies. And privileges were marked by diamonds as gifts for these court members. Udayan Pandit used non-rhymed speech by default. It marks his oppositional status against the totalitarian state as well as lack of privilege. As Shukanta said, Khudar Rajye Prithibhi Godyamoy. Gopika and Baghabain used non-rhymed speech after meeting Udayan Pandit. It marks their breaking of the rules and conspiracy against the very institution they too represent. Fazal Mian and Balaram, the farmer and the miner, used non-rhymed speech which marked their descent and courage to disagree with the king until they were brainwashed. As we saw when they were told they are brainwashing rhymed, Balaram was arguing and he was saying how those chants are not true. Next is King of Herat, who also used non-rhymed speech during the carnival. According to carnivalist festivities like carnival allow people to be relieved of their official duties for the time being and the reverse of the power structure. So we see him speaking in non-rhymed speech for the time being. He uses non-rhymed speech in the laboratory as well, near the end of the movie. It marks his loss of power to Udayan Pandit. Udayan Pandit's students and parents never rhymed. It shows their attitude towards the state. They too are part of the opposition. It was the students who started attacking the state when Udayan Pandit was in exile. Now next, by semi-rhymed speech I meant which used partial metered speech, not totally rhymed, but the internal wordings are kind of metered, or they metered with other speech. So here you can see in the case of the court bureaucrat, he rhymed with the king of Herat, and the treasury guard rhymed with himself and not with Gupi and Bagha. It marks their allegiance to Herat. Although they are the part of the power structure, they do not share privilege. That's why they do not totally rhymed, because only those who rhymed totally in the royal court were privileged. For Charan Das, it is interesting. Although he was the one who first depicted the affairs of the state directly in a song, he too used partially metered speech, which signals the artist's creativity being subjected to the state power and the absence of creative freedom. Rhymes are organized structure which marks homogeneity. You cannot use a trochaic hexameter with an iambic pentameter cause the structure will collapse. So that's why rhyming served as a perfect vessel for representing a totalitarian state and its power. To eradicate dissent and to maintain the homogeneity, the king used instilling rhyming patterns into the brain of the dissenter to create a homogeneous state. Next are the songs. Here, chiri, a word with a negative connotation, is used in the positive context of luxury, and therefore it relates to an opposition, making it ironic. Because the chiri is a derivation of the word which has a positive connotation Sri. So if that was what used here, it would not have been ironic. But the usage of this particular negative term makes it ironic because it leads to the clash. Next one is this homophonous word jomok. Here the literal meaning grandeur is appropriate, literally. The other meaning, the twin, is implied here as well, to denote the masked nature of the king of Hirok. Masquerade is a feature of carnival as well. Hirok's changed attitude towards Phojol Mia, a pretense, is denoted through this word, an allusion to how he behaves with his subjects generally and how he is acting before foreign delegates. Although these lines do not constitute a verbal irony, it states the worldly ironic fate of people and therefore provide an example of ironic fate. Again, a case of opposition. The next one is, this utterance is a sarcastic jibe, an example of indirect usage of language which indicates the astrologer's disappointment at the king, but at the same time he disguises it in sarcasm. The king understands his intent but cannot hold it against him, as the question is not totally irrelevant within the context where all the other year counting systems and all the educational knowledge are asked to be burnt out. Here, hyperbolic usage is indicating the sarcasm. This bold sentence is kind of ambiguous. First of all, it echoes the utterance of King Hirok, where he said that to remember, Udayan Pandit is the Hirok's biggest foe. Now, when he was asked, the astrologer was asked who is going to be brainwashed, the astrologer used this ambiguous sentence, Hirokher সবচেয়ে বড় শত্রু. This is interesting because this sentence has two referent. For the astrologer, the referent is the king of Hirok himself, but for the king of Hirok, the referent here is the Udayan Pandit. Another interesting fact is that this sentence serves as a dramatic irony because at the end of the movie we would learn that the astrologer was not lying at all. He predicted correctly. Here, Udayan Pandit is echoing Hirok's utterance, marking the reversal of power position. Both said at the same place, the library, and both ordered the brainwashing of the other person. Here Bagha meant to ask if common people are allowed in the court as well. But the king pretends not to identify his intention and acts as a humanitarian king and states the obvious. That is why Bagha retorts like this. Yes, one can't allow cattle to come to the court. Stating the obvious causes here humor, and it is a form of sarcasm as well. Foucault says power is knowledge. That is, one who controls the power can control the knowledge. Here in this proverb we see power is misused to propagate distorted beliefs by changing the long-standing discourse and make the people question their own knowledge. Now, The knowledge is only partially modified, so that the unsuspecting mass cannot find out the changes. It is also found in the Orwell's novel Animal Farm, where the commandments were modified to serve the pig's self-interest again and again. A perfect shield for a satire is to place it within a dystopian world, using allusion and avoiding any direct links to original target. Hiragraja Deshe it very well does it. That's why it was not banned like another emergency movie Kissa Kursika. But this allusion does not bar this film to become relevant to any place, any time across the world which shares similar contextual elements with Hirok's kingdom. That's why it is still relevant even in the 2021. As we saw memes from this film flooding the internet during that West Bengal election 2021. And also this framework, the film's framework can be applied to the Bhasha Andolan of Bangladesh as well. To conclude, it must be said that Hiragraja Deshe is a brilliant attempt at a political satire. It serves its purpose of expressing disapproval of the authoritative state, and it does so in the guise of a children's film, with using humorous rhyming patterns which are empowered with heavy meanings. We see how power can modify knowledge and how allusion serves its dual-edged purpose of attacking and safeguarding its wielder at the very same time. As a child, we only saw the funny rhyming dialogues and magic and the story of the victory of good over bad, as we did not have the world knowledge to decipher the hints scattered by the satirist in the film. When we grew up and our horizon of expectations enriched, we could see beyond the metered speech and understood the deep meaning lying within. The implication of the unfinished reference of Sonjibok's story. That's the structure of a satire which provides an alternative to both the opposing world, and that's the beauty of this movie. This is it for today. These are the references I have used for this work. And thank you for having patience till now. Thank you to the audience, to the organizers, to the professors, to my guide Dr. Selvin Jassi, to my seniors and my juniors, and especially thanks to Atrey Gupta, Munmun Dash and Rajeshwari Dotto for helping me so much. Thank you.